Okay, in this video I'm going to continue on with exercise 5A of the book Fundamental Applied Mathematics. We're on page 118 and the question is 8. It reads, bullet of mass 50 grams travels horizontally at 200 meters per second. It enters wood and travels a distance of 1 meter. Find the resistance of the wood assuming it is uniform. So just to sketch what's going on, I'm going to let this rectangle represent the piece of wood. And what we have is a bullet moving at 200 meters per second, we'll say horizontally in an I-hat direction. So it's 200 I-hat, that's its velocity. And we're told that it stops, so it comes to rest at some point in the wood. And we need to find the force which stopped it or slowed it down, and therefore, because we know that F is equal to ma, and we know the mass of the bullet, we know the force of the bullet, we're able to get its deceleration. Alright, so that's reasonably straightforward. But before I do that, I'd just like to note something here. We have 50 grams of mass. Now, the units of mass, or the units you use, are SI. And SI is meters, kilograms, newtons, that sort of thing. And grams are not kilograms, obviously, so therefore they're not SI. And you must have everything in the same set of units. So there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So we have 50 over 1,000 kilograms, alright? Or we have, 10 over 200, or 1 over 20. And that's how many kilograms that we have. Alright, so we have 1 over 20 kilograms. Now, the next thing we need to do is go back to chapter 2 of accelerated linear motion. And remember, of course, we are moving in a linear fashion. We're moving, we'll say, in a line here. So let's go back to UVAST. And we know our initial velocity is 200. We know that the bullet comes to rest, and we don't know what the deceleration is. However, we're told that it comes to rest after a distance of 1 meter. So if we apply v squared is equal to u squared plus 2as, we're going to get the following. We're going to get 0 squared is equal to 200 to be squared plus 2 times a times 1. So we're going to get negative 200 to be squared over 2 is equal to a. Alright, so let's just see what that is. So we have 200 squared divided by 2, and we get a force of negative 2,000, or an acceleration, excuse me, of negative 2,000, or 20,000, excuse me, meters per second squared, which is a massive number. I'm assuming we haven't seen that yet, and we haven't seen that yet in the book. So we have negative 20,000 meters per second squared as our deceleration, and we can now get our force. Alright, so we know, of course, that the force from Newton's second law, the force is equal to mass times the acceleration, or the sum of the forces is equal to the mass times the acceleration. So we have here F is equal to 1 over 20 times 20,000, negative 20,000, excuse me. So the force is equal to negative 1,000. Alright, and that, of course, the units for force are newtons. So we have a deceleration of negative 20,000 meters per second squared caused by a force of negative 1,000 newtons. So the block applies a force of negative 1,000 newtons, like so, in the I-hat direction. Alright, so now we know the force which the block can apply. Now, that is the maximum force which the block can apply. It isn't a thinking piece of material. It can't decide to have all of its resistance force at one time and some of it at another time. So that means no matter what happens, the resistance force given by the block will always be negative 1,000 newtons. So if we, in part 2, were asked, if the bullet had been travelling at twice that speed, how far into the wood would it have penetrated? So let's just do this. If we go back to UVAST, we'll find, well, if it's going at twice the speed, so it's moving at 400 meters per second, and we want it to come to rest. Now, the resistance force is always going to be the same, and obviously, because the mass of the bullet hasn't changed, we're going to go for the same deceleration, which was negative 20,000 meters per second squared. So we're looking to find our distance. So you go v squared is equal to u squared plus 2as. We're going to get 0 squared is equal to 400 to be squared minus 2 times 20,000 times s. So if we divide negative 400 to be squared times 40,000, or negative 40,000. We're going to get our distance. Alright, so let's just do this on our calculator. So we have 400 to be squared divided by 40,000, and we get a distance of 4 meters, where S is equal to plus 4 meters. And that's correct. Alright, so that's all I got to say about that. Thanks for watching. Please pass it on to your friends and subscribe to my channel.